Welcome back to the channel. Today we're working on a GM 3800. This is on a 99 Buick LeSabre, and as you can tell we're going to be changing the intake manifold. We'll also be changing these coolant elbows. So we're going to get started. I got to go ahead and drain the currently we've just got water in the coolant system, so we're going to drain the water. We'll get it down off the ramps and get it back in here and start taking everything apart. Alright, so under here we've got the splash panel we need to take off, and we've got some 10mm screws that go around the perimeter, and then along the front here are 7mm screws. So I'm going to go ahead and remove those. I'm going to go ahead and remove these bolts. You don't have to remove this entire thing. You can see here there's a hole for the radiator to drain. It's just easier to get to the petcock from down here, and it's just some 10mm bolts and some 7mm screws. I think it'll be a little easier this way. Okay, we got all the screws out. I'm just gonna slide it back. So right here is the drain. See if I can show you where the petcock is. It's right there. Alright, we're gonna let this drain and then we'll pick back up. Something to note on the radiator petcocks, some of them are a 90° or a quarter turn, so you would turn it 90 and then it would pop out, and then that's what allows the water to go through, or the coolant. This car, it actually will back out. So what I was getting tripped up on in the beginning is I thought it was a quarter turn, but eventually I got it, and we've drained as much coolant out as what we need. I'm going to go ahead and put the cover back on, and then we'll get started up on the top side. We're going to go ahead and unhook the battery. Show you what we're doing here. So hopefully down here you can see that elbow. We need to change that. In order to change that, we gotta get the alternator off, and this whole bracket that holds the tensioner pulley will come off, and then there's another elbow back here. Can't really see it right now on camera. So what I'm going to do now is get the alternator out of the way. This bracket's got to come off. There's a bolt back here, bolt here. So I'll keep you posted on what size everything is. Alright, we're going to start with the serpentine belt, getting that off. This is a 15mm. When we put this back on, I'll put a belt diagram on the screen so we can all see it. Alright, so we got three 13mm, one for the main battery cable, one for each of the mounts. I'll break them loose with the ratchet, and then I'll come back with an electric ratchet. Alright, so now we've got bolt holding this bracket, and then we've got one more nut. I'm going to use a 13mm decoil. Alright, got one more. Probably a 13. Okay, when we get the alternator up, it should have a plug on the bottom. It looks like we have another 13mm bolt right here, and then this whole assembly should pop off. I was wrong, as a 15. Some movement here. We probably will have some spillage, which is okay. I put the drain pan under there. So we've got that elbow and then this elbow. Yeah, that's another one. Both of those are off. now we're going to tackle the intake. Okay, here to start with, I'm just going to unhook these spark plug wires. Alright, now that we got this end taken care of, we're going to move over here and we're going to get the air box out of the way, get the throttle body off, and then we'll start unhooking some stuff. So here we go. Looks like this might be an 8mm here. So now I'm just going to move along and see what it's going to take to get this fuel rail off. So on the clips for the fuel injector, you just push in on this metal and then wiggle it back and forth. Comes off just like that. Alright, so we're ready to pull the fuel rail off, and there's 4 10mm nuts. There's one here, and then there's one here. Let's see if we can see this one. One right there, and then the other one is can't see it on the screen here, but it's right down in there. So now the fuel rail is loose. We're going to have to break the seals on the injectors. Alright, so here's just a quick look at the back side. Now that I got some decent light back here, we're going to need to unhook this, and it's just push these tabs in and then it'll pop out. I'm going to change the battery real quick. Alright, now the fuel rail's out of the way, got some good light back here, and we'll take a look. We still have this to disconnect, and all you gotta do is squeeze these tabs and then push it out. I'll probably have to set the camera down. So what I'm gonna do is push these tabs in. So that tab's in. You can see some movement there. That's what I really needed. Get that kind of freed up. Alright, so now we got a bolt here, a bolt here, a bolt here, 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 here. I think there's one up here, but we'll get that all figured out. Alright, so it looks like I missed a bolt here. I guess that doesn't really have to go anywhere. Alright, so we're going to start removing these 8mm bolts. Alright, that should be it. Well, here we go. Well, we're getting hung up on, what is this right here? I'll come back once I've got it all cleaned up. This kit also came with a replacement. Alright, looks like we're ready to put the intake back on. So this tube goes in right there, and then on this bottom gasket part there's these clips that'll hold it in place. Alright, we'll start transferring the screws. We're going to tighten these bolts, then we'll torque them. I'm going to run them in just real gently with this impact. Don't get worried, I'm not going to over tighten them. Alright, so to torque these bolts down, we have a special pattern, and we will be doing 22 inch-pounds on the first pass, 44 on the second, and 89 on the last and the third and final pass. So I'll get this up on the screen while I'm doing this. Alright, so that was the first pass at 22 inch-pounds. I will be going off camera for the remaining two, but that was, you can see the torque sequence. So we're going to do that same sequence at 44 inch-pounds and then again at 89 inch-pounds. Alright, we got all the bolts, the intake bolts in and torqued to these instructions. I don't know exactly how I feel about it, because if you look, I'll zoom you in here, that one to crack a little bit, and then if we look at this, you can see how it's seated into the plastic, and I'm not sure if that's how it's designed. But I followed these instructions to a T, so we're going to go with it. So this is where the coolant elbow went into the head. or into the lower intake and see if we can see if there's anything still in there. Alright, so we're going to try and get that out of there. Try a pick first. I'm going to try and clean up this hole a little bit somehow. Start with my finger. Okay, I think this is where I'm going to leave this. I think it's clean enough. And next, we're going to get ready to put the fuel rail back on. But before we do that, the kit comes with O-rings for the fuel injectors, so I'm going to change the ones on the bottom, the ones that go into the intake. But before that, let's address this. We're going to reattach this right here. Alright. So we're completely seated there. So now we'll move on to those injectors. Alright, we are going to swap out these O-rings. I'll start with, I'm just going to show you one. Just taking a pick here. And then it's going to be these fatter ones that come with the kit. And I'm going to change these. I'm not going to change the upper ones. I believe that's what this other set are. Just because I didn't notice any areas where they were leaking. We didn't take them out. And I think we're going to be fine. But I am going to clean these up a little bit. Alright, so that's the new O-ring on there. These will be a little more difficult to put in, but that's because they're nice and fresh. So I'll come back after I get through all, I'll come back once I get the other 5 done. Okay, so we've got all the O-rings changed out, and now we're ready to put the fuel rail and the fuel injectors back in place. So I do have some silicone spray that I'm going to spray on these O-rings because if we don't, it's going to be difficult to get them on. So I'm going to do that, and then we'll get the fuel rail in place. So you can see the fuel injectors are seated all the way. Oh. Alright, so we can go ahead and put the bolts in, hold those down. Alright, we can start plugging the injectors back in. I think we're ready to put the throttle body back in place. So before that throttle body goes on, we have one last part from the kit, and that is this gasket here. You can match the shape. This one's got a little bit of a teardrop for the side over here. Okay, now we can make the throttle body with the intake. Go ahead and get the bolts or nuts started. Alright, so the torque specs for these bolts are 18 foot-pounds. Alright, here we go. We're going to get this buttoned up. Snap these fuel lines in. Let's get all these wires connected where they go. This vacuum line back on. Looks like the air box is ready to go back on. Seems a little tricky. Alright, that's back on. Plug this back in. Alright, I'm going to do a little cleanup and then we'll get started on the other side and get it put back together. Got the intake in place and now we're ready to put the coolant elbows in place. These guys right here. Now I've already cleaned the areas where these actually go in to this piece, and also on the engine itself. I think one's on the water pump and then one's coming out of the intake. And I'm just going to spray some of that same silicone spray on these O-rings that I had earlier. This will just help the O-rings slide into their home, and we will put this into the main piece first. Now the shorter L or elbow, good catch, this will go further back, and this will be the one closer toward the middle that actually goes into the intake manifold. So we'll start with the back one. Now we'll just try to line these up and put them into place. I think one way I'll do that is with this bolt. That'll help us with the orientation, just making sure we're going the correct direction. Right here we're seated, and has us seated there. Alright, so I think with that being in a good spot, we can probably get this yeah, I think that's the alternator bracket, or yeah, the alternator bolt that we put in. Which is okay. We'll use it as a locator. We'll go ahead and run this one in. going to go ahead and tighten that bottom one because I don't think we'll be able to get to it very well after the alternator is in place. Just going to check and make sure that the holes line up when we go to put the alternator on. Okay, yeah, everything's looking good there. So I think we can go ahead and get the alternator back in place. Don't forget to plug this plug back in. Alright, so it looks like it's time for the serpentine belt. I'll go ahead and put a diagram on the screen now. Alright, that should be the job. Alright, we've completed the upper intake manifold replacement on this 99 Buick LeSabre, as well as the coolant elbows. You can see, hopefully, you can see here. Now it's time to fill this car with coolant. I'm not going to show that in this video. There's another video on my channel. I'll link it here. But just wanted to finish up this video and say thank you for watching. And if you have any questions, put them in the comments below.